Years ago, a boy and his family lived on their corn farm just 15 minutes out of a small town, and they loved Halloween. Every year, they'd grow their cornfields to absolute perfection, and they'd also grow a pumpkin patch for the town and turn 100 out of their 300 acres into a corn maze. The maze had creepily carved pumpkins and scarecrows throughout. Kids from the high school and other townfolk would be volunteers to jump out and give you a scare or candy. It'd always be completed by the first day of October and stayed open until the 2nd of November. The boy was a simple, quiet, nice teenager who kept to himself at school, but he was rather handsome, so all the girls always flirted with him, all the popular girls. This created enemies for him, although he never cared for popularity or any of the conventional teenage desires. He only ever cared for his parents, Halloween, and his dream to become a professional holiday decorator. Having and not having those desires in a town dominated by mostly football made him a freak. The only exception was having his eyes set on a girl, one who was to him the only girl in school, in the whole town, that was beautiful. She had short black hair, circle-framed glasses, was tan, had freckles, and was just as tall as him. She always listened to music, wrote or drew stories, and was always alone. They had a couple of classes together, worked together on assignments, and passed each other in the halls every now and then. He never learned her whole life story, but he learned enough to know he liked her. Her name was Chelsea. All sophomore year, he worked up the courage to talk to her and ask her out, but on the day he was going to do it, that morning, his father died from a heart attack and he stopped going to school to help with the farm and to help his mother. Within the next 2 years, his mother went insane in her grief, claiming that the farm was cursed because, ever since his great-grandfather, every man of the house had died of a heart attack around the same age. But you can't really believe her if you knew how they ate. He was left all alone, but since he was 18, the land and the house became his. Even though he was left alone, that year he made the greatest corn maze for the town on Halloween. When working on it though, he was visited by many family friends. At his request, neighbors came with food, a helping hand to tend to the land, and to help set up the Halloween celebration. Meanwhile, family in and out of the state only came just to see if he wanted to sell the land. Men in suits from various companies came as well. They hounded him almost every day of the week. He ignored them all as best he could, but he was slowly losing his patience. When October was close by again, the last person he'd ever expect visited him. Chelsea, all alone with a bag filled with what he could only assume from the smell was food, and she had a smile on her face and was blushing. Turns out she always liked him too, but was just afraid to talk to him. "I've been wanting to come and see you, but the farm was always swarming with people, and I am not very good with strangers or crowds." They had lunch together and had a wonderful time, and she ended up helping him with the pumpkin patch and the corn maze every day and night for the next month until it was done. When it was done, he asked her out to dinner on the night before Halloween. She said yes. Seeing how well the date went and how good it made him feel to be away from the farm and in the company of someone that wasn't trying to take his land or get in his pants for bragging rights, he decided to celebrate Halloween at her house, leaving the maze and patch under the supervision of his father's closest friend and his family. With the help of his father's cop buddies, as well as their kids who all chaperoned, the night went well for both houses. He got his first kiss, and his maze raised enough money to pay off the bills for a while. A week after that year's Halloween, the town's all-star cheerleader was declared missing and was found dead in his maze, buried partially by dirt and covered in broken, discarded pumpkins. The autopsy found that she had been sexually assaulted by multiple attackers and then murdered. Of course, the town all pointed fingers at the teenager, but the cops proved his innocence with his girlfriend and her family and many other witnesses. A year went by and Halloween came around again. However, barely anyone showed up. Disappointed and no longer in the spirit for the holiday, he canceled the maze and stayed home alone. Unfortunately, he did have visitors who came late at night. The night before Halloween, a couple of teens came to his house and they beat him to death. Halloween night, they went back to set everything on fire to rid the evidence from both of their crimes. After a week of searching, the police finally figured out that the now missing jocks had gone to the maze Halloween night, and they found what was left of them and their crimes. They had been torn to pieces, and their limbs were found inside the once happy pumpkins that now had sinister faces and mouths and were covered in human blood. The authorities thought it to be a serial killer after they all saw a scarecrow with a bloody smile, boots, and claws covered in blood standing before them. They were going to give chase, but it, roared at them, revealing 2 rows of sharp teeth covered in blood before disappearing into the night. They searched the entire land with dogs, even a helicopter, but nothing was ever found. There was a funeral for the boy, the cheerleader, and the jocks, all closed caskets, of course. The police never linked the jocks to the cheerleader, and they never bothered to clear the boy's name, whom of which they now suspected was the killer. Instead, they chalked up a story that would please the town and their votes for the sheriff. The story is as follows. The farmer boy had killed the cheerleader the night before Halloween after inviting her over, and the jocks went and got themselves killed, committing vigilante justice. Heroes is what they were called. Every year the patch and maze is always made and is always taken down at the exact same time and manner as before. Yet, Chelsea nor her family do anything to make this happen. She doesn't have the heart to bring herself to do it without him. No one believes her though, and everyone thinks she does it for attention. Ever since then, year after year, members, lawyers, land developers, and many townsfolk all went to the farm and tried to take it, but he left it in Chelsea's name. Lawyer after lawyer that set foot on that farm never left it. They were all found in the same condition as the jocks. The cops kept it secret as best as they could to prevent a panic of a serial killer on the loose, but people are people, and people talk. Legends and rumors started, and then began the yearly dares. Every year, cocky teenagers trying to prove their manhood go missing, and the cops are too afraid to look for them. Soon, the town became quiet, and only the stubborn, stupid, or the heartbroken stayed. Only one person has gone to the farm and made it out unharmed. Chelsea.